Hi everyone, my name is Tori, this is Novel Life, and welcome back to my channel. Today I have some enemies to lovers romance recommendations to share with you. So a lot of people love enemies to lovers. I have a mix of contemporary, fantasy, YA fantasy, historical, and paranormal. I have a good mix for you guys, and there's going to be something for everyone in this video. Now, I've read a lot of enemies to lovers more recently, so if you watch my videos consistently, and my wrap-ups consistently, you probably have already seen that I've read these books, but I wanted to put them in romance recommendations for you. So let's go ahead and jump right in. The first one that I read recently and that I want to recommend to you guys is The Crown of Oaths and Curses by J. Bree. This is a romantasy, fanro, whatever you want to call it, enemies to lovers, like, oh my god, enemies. Like, they're the ultimate enemies to, I'm assuming, lovers, the way that this book ends, but I cannot wait for the next book to come out in April. I'm so glad I read this in March, so I don't have to wait very long. Do you know some people have been waiting 4 months for the next book? But in this book, we have a witch who is trying to go find her fated mate. Basically, the seeress told them at this time, at this place, you will meet your fated mate, and that's where you'll be able to, like, speak to them and, meet them face to face for the first time. And Rook goes and travels to what we find out is her home land, I guess you can say, that she escaped years and years and years ago. And then you see Soren, who is so excited to go meet his fated mate, and little does he know when he sees her that she is a witch. And the reason why he has a problem with that is because his kingdom and his people have been killing witches for centuries now, years and centuries, wiping out the entire population of witches on those lands. So he's like, I can't kill her. It would go against, like, we're going to basically have a war with the seers and everything like that, and I do not want that. Like, that's a hard no. So I'm just going to put her in this cell. So for most of this book, she is sitting in this cell that I will say she can break out of. This was such a good book. Like, it kept me so intrigued the whole time. While it's very slow, it's very, like, day-to-day stuff. You see that Soren is not giving her an inch of anything, but at the same time, like, you see that, like, they're both, like, figuring things out and what they're supposed to do, and how you still get to know them as people, even though, like, she's locked in this cage, like, in the dungeon. I love this. I love the enemies to lovers aspect, because it really truly is like a soul I hate you type thing. Like, you are my ultimate enemy. This was an amazing book. I loved it. Was it a little too long? Yes, but I would still recommend it to a lot of people, because that ending. That's all I gotta say. That's all I'm gonna say, okay? The next book I have is Where We Belong by Ashley Munoz. So this is the second book in this Motorcycle Club Small Town series. I did love where we started so much more, because that's more friends to enemies to lovers. This one is definitely enemies to lovers right off the bat. So our female character in this book is actually the best friend of a female character from the first book, so we do get to see her. And the main male character is actually the second in command in the first book from the Motorcycle Club to the main hero in that book. So you see him in this book that, the way certain things ended in the first book is kind of like an overarching plot within the whole series, so you do have to kind of read them in order. But with this book, you see that he's, like, starting to become president and starting to step into that role, because the other person kind of, like, stepped aside. And you see that, like, she is like, I do not understand Motorcycle Club stuff at all. But, like, goddamn, he is such an asshole. He's so mean to her constantly. Like, he says the most horrific things in a way that's like, why? It makes you question why. And you start to figure out why he feels that way, and, like, why he does not like her, and why he's constantly pushing her away. And I will say, if you are someone who likes a little bit more suspense in your romance books, this does have a decent amount of suspense of who's doing this, what's happening, how are these other motorcycle clubs coming into their small town, and kind of, like, planning things out and doing things and, plotting against them, or with them, I should say. But I did enjoy this one, so if you're looking for an enemies to lovers romance, definitely check out this one. It's very good. The next one I have is a paranormal romance, and that is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. So a lot of you guys are going to be like, you like Ali Hazelwood? Listen, I loved Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I thought it was a solid read. I would recommend it to a lot of people, and I enjoyed that to the point where I will definitely pick up the next book in the series whenever that comes out. Now, Bride is a paranormal romance, and the reason why it's enemies to lovers is because our female character is a vampire. And her father basically placed her in arranged marriage with a werewolf, or a were, that's what they call them, but they're werewolves, shifters, whatever you want to call it. So now she has to go live in the land of the werewolves, where no other vampire has been in, like, a very, very long time, if at all. And so there he like constantly is pushing her away, but she's not gonna like, let that deter her. She's still gonna like, live her life, roam around, do stuff like that. And all the werewolves are like, what are you doing? And she has this cat that she brings. It's so adorable. And our hero has a little sister that's so adorable. And it was just honestly a really good book. And you kind of see at the end what happens, what it's alluded to in the beginning of the book. Like people were kind of confused by the prologue. And I was like, just wait. It's gonna be amazing. So I love this book. I don't want to say like too much about the end or whatever, but I will say that he does treat her in an enemies to lovers way, obviously because they are enemies. I mean, he's a werewolf and she's a vampire. That's like the ultimate enemies to lovers, or enemies in a paranormal romance. Duh. The next book I have to talk about is Loving Romeo by Laura Pavlov. Oh, this book, guys. I love this book. Love this book. When I'm filming this, the next book comes out in about a week and a half, and I literally cannot wait. I love this series. Laura's killing it with this series, I'll tell you this. Like, every book has been just all the tropes that I absolutely love. So in this book, we have a boxer hero fighter romance. Yes, it's a fighter romance. It's one of my favorite things to read. But our hero is a boxer fighter. He owns this gym. He's been retired for a while. And you see that this woman, moves in next door to where his boxing gym is, or his gym is. And she's like owning I think it's a coffee shop, like a juice shop or whatever. Like a little cafe. And he is like, I do not like her. She grew up in a small town, so they kind of known each other when they were younger. Something happened with her brother that he's all mad about. The found family in this book is literally one of my all-time favorite things. I love every single character. I love the enemies to lovers aspect. You see why they're enemies, and you see the pivotal moment when they become lovers in this book, and it is actually like very prevalent, and it totally makes sense to me, and I loved it. Oh my god, I love this so much. Like, I just keep saying, like, oh my god, I love it. Just read it. I promise you're gonna love it. But there's a little bit element of suspense too in this book, which I was not expecting, but I did enjoy. So I would highly suggest picking up this book if you're looking for that enemies to lovers, where it's like not necessarily hate to love, but they're definitely enemies, and you see why they're enemies and why he hates her. Obviously, it's because she's like a spoiled rich princess. She comes from a very wealthy family, and him and his found family, all of the other guys in his found family have come up from nothing. They didn't have that much money, so they kind of always resented him. But he sees her in like a different light, and how like, okay, maybe she's not this spoiled little princess that I thought she was. I love this. Oh my gosh. The next one I have is a historical, and that is the notorious Lord Nightfall by Lorraine Heath. You guys know I have loved this historical. This is one of my first historicals I read this year, and I absolutely loved it. It's a 5-star read for me. Okay, this is a friends to enemies to lovers. This book opens with our female character being a kind of not a romance author, but she's writing like a diary that's like all about her previous sexual encounters, I will say. We'll say that. And she is like writing about her past experiences. And Lord Nightfall is the person that she had those experiences with. And people are like, is that Lord K? Is that Lord Nightfall? Oh my gosh, they have the similar names, blah, 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 blah. Come to find out, they were about to get married. And he left her at the altar. And you're like, oh my god, how could he leave her? Like, oh, they were like perfect together. You see like a little flashbacks and stuff like that. But then you figure out why. And the why got me. And you see like other secrets that they've been keeping. Both of them have been keeping. And I'm like, oh my god, it was so good. So they literally were friends. And you see them at the very beginning of the book, they're enemies. Like, she despises him. She thinks he is horrible and wants nothing to do with him. So if you're looking for a good historical, pick up this one. You're not gonna be disappointed. I promise you're not gonna be disappointed. The next one I have to talk about is Heartless Hunter by Kristen Ciccarelli. So this one kind of confuses me because I see special editions out there for Heartless Hunter, but I also see it titled The Crimson Moth. The Crimson Moth is the title of the series. This is like book 1. So I don't know why it has those. Anyway, I was very confused. If you can tell me why it's named that way, please tell me. I don't know if like one's the UK, one's US. I don't know. I was very confused. Anyway, this is also the ultimate enemies to lovers because he is a witch hunter and she is a witch. And his brother is actually secretly helping her. And by secretly, I mean like any witches that they find, they are literally like stoned and like killed in front of everyone. So it's literally the ultimate enemies to lovers. I know the back of the book says like a cat and mouse game. This is truly that. It's like he is constantly one step behind her of trying to figure out who she is, even though like he knows her, like they know each other, but they don't know like their secret, well, her secret identity, I will say. He doesn't know like she is actually the one person that he's been like searching for, but he has like a thing for her. Like they start to fall in love. It's very interesting. The end of the book was intriguing to me. There's a lot of things that happened. Will I continue? I'm not sure. because the ending wrapped up some things, and I was okay with it because I went into it thinking it wasn't going to be a romance, but there is a romance, but they don't have an HEA at the end of the book because there's a cliffhanger. But there were things that came out that it's really truly that cat and mouse back and forth. Not back and forth, but he's always a step behind her. And I really enjoyed that. It was actually a really fun read. It just read a little bit slow for me, but I would recommend it to people if you're looking for more of like a YA fantasy, YA kind of more paranormal. It's not necessarily a fantasy world. It's once again kind of like historical setting, where you have like balls and you have parties that they go to, and you have like the gossip and social standings and stuff like that, but there's witches. So it's not necessarily like 100% a fantasy world, so I have a hard time naming it a fantasy world, but there's a lot of like paranormal aspects with her being a witch and magic and stuff like that. So I would recommend that one. It was a fun one. Now, the last one I want to mention is a definite enemies to lovers, and it's for my rockstar romance lovers, and that is Rign by Cassandra Robbins. So I was able to read an early audio copy from Dreamscape Media through NetGalley, and I did like the audio narration. The story was okay to me. There was a lot of heavy sex scenes, but they are truly enemies to lovers. Like, she goes to work with him because she is like going solo. She broke up with her boyfriend, found him cheating, all this stuff like that, and they're gonna work together because he's also like a singer-songwriter type thing, rock star. And she goes to find him at his house, and he is like getting a blowjob from like 3 different women. And she's like, what the fuck? Like, triggered. I'm triggered because that's how she found her ex. Anyway. So she goes, and they're kind of still forced to work together because, like, he's the best in the industry. And while it was a fun book, I wish I would have physically read it instead of listening to the audiobook. Even though the narration was good, but, like, some of those spicy books I like to physically read. I don't know, I'm weird, but I would recommend it for if you're wanting a rockstar enemies to lovers romance, definitely check out Rign, because I think Cassandra Robbins, I haven't heard that much about this series. I do enjoy her writing most of the time. She does have, like, a motorcycle club. She does have, like, a billionaire series, so she has a little bit of everything for everyone, I will say that. But that is all I have for this enemies to lovers romance recommendations video. Thank you so much for watching. For the emoji, ooh, what kind of emoji? Drop me a guitar emoji for rock stars, just because that's the last book I talked about. Yeah, drop me a guitar emoji in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more content for me. As always, hope you're living your novel life, and I will see you in my next one. Bye, guys.